Welcome back. This is Unrendered on IKTV. You can follow us on Twitter at iConcepts. I'm Tony Regisford, and my guest is Senator Honorable Jomo Thomas. Jomo, we're talking about your chances in the constituency, and having been selected now as a candidate for the ULP, we're talking about South Leeward. Let's dig into the constituency. Apart from, yes, you've got your internal party support issues to sort out, and seems as if you are making strides with that. But your real challenger, of course, is Nigel Stevenson, who is the incumbent.
Yes.
And he is in opposition, so he's not held accountable really for what needs to be fixed in the constituency. Okay, what are the challenges? What are the challenges in South Leeward?
There are tremendous challenges, and these challenges were made worse by the Christmas floods of last year. The roads were ravaged, people's homes were damaged, destroyed. People became a little bit more vulnerable. You have problems. The South Leeward is primarily an agricultural fishing community, and you have people having difficulties. People are growing their crops, but there are tremendous fluctuation in the prices. So this week, a sack of Eddie would be for $300, and the next week it's going to be for $50. Right. I was talking to a young lady today who told me that the going price now is $40.
Right.
How do we assist people to grow crops and to get good market for the crops at good prices?
But this certainly must be a national issue too, as well.
Yes, I mean, indeed. I know that, but I'm talking South Leeward here. That's an issue. I think that we have a tremendous amount of young people in South Leeward, and many of the young men are sitting on the blocks morning till evening. I have come up with an idea of marrying idle hands with idle lands, where the government make an attempt, or at least I would push the government to make an attempt to acquire lands within the valley, either to buy or to lease lands, and to form cooperatives of between 4 and 8, 4, 5 and 10 persons, young men who can be in a co-op that grow food and make a living out of that. There's also a question. I think that no one denies convincingly that there has been tremendous efforts and advancement in education in St. Vincent. What I would like to see us do as we proceed into a fourth term is to not to de-emphasize the academic side of education, but certainly to bring into further prominence the technical side, the skill artisan side of education. So again, we have a lot of young men, women. I would like to see more of them be actively trained into, apart from talk about the farming already, into masonry, carpentry, computer technicians, plumbers.
Right.
Because when I grew up, those persons that I knew when I was growing up, who were masons and carpenters and plumbers, they were able to keep their families together.
Right.
And I know there's a significant amount of income that would come to a skilled person. So a young man who might, or woman, who did not make a lot of advances, let's say academically, or even some of them who advanced academically and got a few subjects, but have not yet been able to find a job, a job that pays a wage that could keep body and soul together. My advice, and one of the things that I want to push to see the government do, is to develop that kind of skill program.
Are you going to have like your own constituency manifesto, as it were?
I haven't thought about a constituency manifesto, but I have thought
a mini document that
I have not thought about it in that way. But I'm certainly would be when I speak in South Leeward, I would be speaking up what I perceive to be the things that a Jomo candidacy, a Jomo as an elected representative would push within the government to see these things happen in South Leeward.
Of course, that is not where the battle ends. You will have the ideas,
yes,
but actually getting them implemented,
yes, Well, that's always
when
a
you have
battle
to
in government.
have the challenge of resources.
Politics is the art of the possible. If you are not the person who control the purse strings, then you have to beseech or convince, persuade the person who controls the purse strings to release monies to do the things. Again, we are in a poor developing country. There are limited resources. So there are pulls, different points of tension. Where do we fix the road now? Where do we build the next bridge?
It's always competing.
So there's always competing different, but the effort is to push and to push hard and to be, because once I think part of the process of resource allocation is for us, again, because we're in a competitive parliamentary democracy, that we have to think globally. And it is true that the people in constituency A may want their roads fixed or another playing field or even a playing field, not necessarily another.
Some piece of infrastructure.
Some infrastructure, yeah. But if we're thinking globally, then we would think, well, boy, I know you really need it, but constituency B needs it even more. Not only because we would get to satisfy the needs of the people in constituency, but from an electoral standpoint, we will be able to show up another area.
Right.
Because all of those are demands. So you're doing things that are intended to assist and to alleviate the issue, the problems
So in
facing
large
people.
measure, it's a mixture of central policy to address the national issues of which your constituency is affected. It's also, if you're the ruling party, it is also a question of expedient political strategy, because you may want to do a bit more work in this constituency, either to retain support that is dwindling or to pull support that is not there. And so
exactly.
So those are the
tensions.
Those are the tensions,
that
essentially.
you have to respond to.
But let me ask you a question, Jomo. A lot of people who put themselves up as candidates, and I'm saying this based on my own sort of empirical evidence, if they're not successful, well, there are two scenarios. One, they're not successful and their party wins. Well, those tend to stick around a little longer. And then there's this scenario where they're not successful and their party does not win. And those people tend to vanish. It's like, okay, game over. I put myself up. I pledged my work to the constituency and so on, and then they vanish. I want to kind of figure out what kind of person you're going to be here, Jomo. Have you made it now at least significantly for the future part of your life's work to deal with the constituency of
Well, what I intend to do is what I have been doing for a long time, and that is to be an advocate for people, the poor, the vulnerable.
But are you going to switch back your interest to the national stage, or are you going to focus
in the first place,
on South Leeward?
I would, the national focus will never leave me.
Yes, I accept that.
But I would concentrate or push really hard to ensure that I become the best possible representative that South Leeward has ever seen. I have no doubts in my mind that once the Unity Labour Party runs a good campaign that stays on message, that speak to its program, its policies, its record of achievement, and to address some strategic things in different communities in South Leeward, as if I can speak for that constituency, that the ULP will win that constituency.
That being said, if they don't, my question remains, is Jomo going to be...
I would still be in South Leeward.
Is Jomo still going to be in South Leeward?
I would still be in South Leeward.
Even if the ULP loses and you lose?
Well, if the ULP loses, that is not the end of elections. That's not the end of politics in St. Vincent. You have to, if the ULP were to lose, which I think is highly unlikely, I don't think that is the end of politics. We have to move forward. We have to begin to plot. If the people want to say, we had enough of you after 15 years, we have to plot the way forward.
So Jomo is in South Leeward for
Jomo is in South Leeward for the haul.
For the long haul.
The long haul.
Your position as senator, is that helping you with your to leverage resources, or just the perception that maybe your voice is, not the perception, but the fact that your voice is being heard nationally, apart from your activism, which you did before, now being heard in the House, is that giving you the kind of profile that enhances your chances in the constituency?
Well, certainly it does. You're a parliamentarian, you're sitting in National Assembly, you get to speak on issues, people get a chance to hear you talk on debate on issues, and people make their own estimation as to who you are, who they think you might be if you are elected. People tend to compare you with the persons who are being on offer and say, well, I think that this person is going to be not only a good representative, but this person would be a far better representative. I am convinced that I would be a far better representative than Mr. Nigel Stevenson. I don't think there are many people in St. Vincent, including opposition persons, who would doubt that.
Well, that might be on paper. I mean, it's like you select a West Indies cricket team, and the lineup looks
in paper on practice
really good, and then
in paper on practice
they go out on the pitch, and the returns are.
No, it has never happened where the West Indies had a good team on paper and went out and didn't perform.
Many times, Joe.
Nah, a one-off thing, not in a series.
Many times, I think we looked at the lineup and we said, "Yeah, this is a strong team." And then,
strong team.
And then on the pitch,
in the last 20 years,
nothing. Now,
but I take your point.
Yeah,
I take your point. You have to. People are going to vote based on what the national mood is. People are going to vote based on how the party, the governing party, the Unity Labour Party, respond to issues in the run-up to the election. People are going to vote on how, what common stream between now and the election. And this is why I talked about the party's record. I believe that whatever we are going to do, and I don't know when the elections are going to be called, but whatever we have to do and whatever we can finish, we should finish it as soon as possible, which would give the people a chance to enjoy it, rather than for it to come closer to the election.
Let me pick you up on this thing where you say you think you'd make a far better representative. Is that, am I hearing a little bit of snobbery because maybe you are far more academically qualified? You're a lawyer, you're a journalist, as I introduced you, your first degree is in journalism, you've been on the national scene, in intellectual spheres. Is this intellectual snobbery?
No, it's not intellectual snobbery at all. It is what it is. I mean, I think that I have training, I have experience, I have a history of advocacy for people. You can't take that away from me. People may try, but they can't take it away from me. And I have been doing, when I decided to come back to St. Vincent 10 years ago, I came back to St. Vincent because I wanted to contribute. I didn't want to come back to St. Vincent to retire. And I went and I spent 10 years in university. I didn't just spend it to make money. I spent it because I want, when I did journalism and political science, those were my love. And then I went and did international relations and political economy because I wanted to have an understanding of societies and how societies worked. And then I went and I did a law degree with a special emphasis, with a special certificate in international law because I wanted to understand the world in which we live and the legal architecture that undergirds everything that we do. Those were specific training to be able to contribute in a particular way, not just to New York or the United States where I spent 21 years, but to come back to St. Vincent and the region and to make a contribution. That cannot be taken from me. I am saying that is part of,
that's part of your package.
What is going to be going as I go up against Mr. Stevenson. It's not my fault that I am trained in the way in which I am trained.
Yeah, but I just wanted to.
No, I don't
make the point that
I don't see the snobbery at all.
A highly qualified individual does not necessarily redound to a better representative.
Oh, I will agree with that. I would agree with that. But I am not just who I am academically. I have been immersed in all kind of activities.
So you reckon you have the prerequisites?
Without a doubt.
I have to hold it there. We're at the end of our second segment. You're watching Unrendered on AKTV. My guest is Senator Jomo Thomas. More when we come back from the break.